co, gotowi na następną grę? Mam dla was dwóch doskonałych graczy. Myślę, że nie trzeba ich będzie przedstawiać, ale zapraszam w takim razie do siebie Lucifrona. Duże brawa! Wiecie, kto będzie jego przeciwnikiem? Mana, zapraszam cię! Lucifron, tell me, how do you feel coming against Mana before this audience?
A bit intimidated, I guess, but nah, I think it's okay for me. Like, not much. I think it's normal that everyone cheers for Mana since it's his country, but for me, it's not too much of a deal. Like, I'm feeling pretty good.
So, how do you find your chances? Do you feel confident playing against Mana now?
I think it should be very even. At least the last times we've played, it has been kind of even. But if I play good, I think I can win against him.
Thank you very much. Lucifron! Mana, jak twoje samopoczucie w tym momencie?
No oczywiście jest bardzo fajnie. O, tam coś wystrzelił.
Nie, to nie my.
To ja. No czuję się świetnie, ponieważ teraz mam wreszcie okazję zagrać na Terrana. Na Terrana czuję się bardzo fajnie i czuję, że pokażemy całkiem niezłe gry, bo z Lucifronem zawsze fajne gry mamy, także mam nadzieję, że będzie się podobać.
Okay, so I'm crossing my fingers for both of you. Good luck, gentlemen. Please take your seats. Brawa dla obydwu zawodników! Okej, zapraszamy w takim razie do naszych komentatorów.
We've been waiting for this for a little while now. PVT, Mana Lucifron,
This is going to be a
Polish,
sick
Spanish.
match.
It's going to be disgusting in the best way possible.
Yes.
I cannot wait. Our first map is Whirlwind. What are we going to see?
Whirlwind is 4 spawning positions, so it's very hard to know where your opponent started. Well, I mean, you don't know where they started. Very hard to do proxies, very hard to do early pressure. Sometimes you can kind of, do a build that has the ability to do early pressure and hope you scout your opponent either horizontal or vertical so that you can actually make it happen. But more likely, we're going to see something like CC first or 1-Rax expand versus Nexus first. That's most common on this map. Probably going to go into a macro game. Mana, one of the best Protoss in the world, one of the best PVTs, and Lucifron, one of the best Terrans as well. It's going to be really, really interesting.
I'm really excited. What are you thinking?
I think you actually covered the openers pretty well, and Lucifron is a very solid macro player. I don't think we're going to see him cheesing at all. He's going to go into 2 bases, 3 bases, get a couple medivacs. I don't think he's the type of player who likes to commit too much to those medivac drops. He just tries a few of them, but he doesn't do big drops. So then he goes into Ghost, and he's very good with Ghost. He starts nuking everything. And Mana, I don't think he will overcommit to Colossi this game. I think he will play mostly with Zealot, Archon style, and a lot of upgrades from 2 Forges, most likely.
All right. Well, very quick. You did very well yesterday. Predictions?
Mana 2-1.
2-1 Mana? 2-1 Mana?
I like Terran so much. 2-1 Lucy.
2-1 Lucy. All right. Well, we're heading over to the casters. Enjoy this game.
Thanks very much, guys. Welcome back to the caster's desk. I was about to say analysis deck there for some reason. We can take that job, it's fine. I'm here with Apollo. How are you doing, man? This is going to be a good game.
Good, very excited for this game. It's going to be a great series between them. As they said on stage, it's always very, very close. Great games. They're both macro-focused players. It's going to be amazing.
So we'll be jumping onto Whirlwind here in just a second, as we do have spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here as our red Protoss. Poland, give it up for Mouse Mana. And spawning up to our top left as our blue Terran. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Lucifron.
I mean, both of these players, as just mentioned, have played a lot against each other. Know each other's style inside out. Mana is the player that will play a very defensive game, will look to accept and deal with as many drops or anything weird that Lucifron tries. And then we'll try to finish the game off with a massive 3-3 timing. Once he gets all his upgrades together, once he hits 200 supply, and he's able to roll over the Terran army. On the other hand, though, Lucifron is going to open up with a command center. His style, very similar as well, will want to play for the later stages. His control in the later stages is fantastic, and he's also very good at multitasking and getting the damage done in the mid stages. But the question's going to be with this series, can Lucifron crack the armor of Mana with his defense, and especially with Mana playing in such a fantastic crowd? That's really going to fuel his play.
That's very, very true. It's hard to break Mana if he's on, well, it's especially hard to break him if he's on 2 bases. If he goes on to 3 bases, he knows the timing in which he needs to do that, and he allows himself the defensive capabilities across those 3 bases as well. The one thing that you mentioned there that was really, really crucial, though, is the multitasking level of Lucifron is astounding. And on a map as big as this, the bigger the map, the more potential you have to exploit that multitasking.
That's right, but the bigger the map, I suppose you could say the easier it is for Mana to defend as well, because it's going to take Lucifron a lot longer to try to do any sort of attack. So we'll see how this plays out. And it looks like Mana's going to get the first scout off in this game, sending his probe in the right direction. And we did see Mana go for a relatively fast Nexus, not a super fast Nexus, but it was a decently timed one, as we can see it near completion already. Knowing that the map plays to this down, knowing that Lucifron isn't going to do anything risky because it's such a big map. Lucifron couldn't probably find Mana if he tried to do something aggressive early.
Yeah. Just after that one gateway, that Nexus on going down, it just leaves him in a really, really nice, stable spot, just in case his opponent's going to be going for some crazy aggression on a map like this, which is very uncommon, but not unheard of, as we do have now Lucifron throwing down his factory, and that probe does end up dying, I think, before that factory was spotted, actually.
Yeah, that's right, but he has seen both the gases, so now Man is going to be thinking, you know, is it going to be a Cloak Banshee after a command center first? Is it going to be Reactor Hellions? What does this mean? And that's the thought process of Mana at this moment. Sending out a Zealot is going to probably just poke and have a look around. He has a second Zealot behind that, as well as a Stalker. We'll see what damage can be done. Is there a bunker up there yet? Because he didn't see that yet.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, in going into the options that you were just mentioning before, I'm a big fan of actually going for, say, Hellions on this map here from Lucifron, just because, again, the map's big, you can control a lot of space with it, you can be highly mobile, you can find little holes where possible, and, you know, there might even be the Medevac in tow here just to exploit even more potential for those Hellions to actually get into the main.
That's right, and because it's such a flat area, the force fields can't cover a large surface area either because the ramp is so big. We see Lucifron tightly walling himself in against potentially any form of aggression, but 2 Zealots make their way in here. With Lucifron's build, he has a single Marine, and the Marine damage output's not going to be large enough to prevent SCVs from going down, though as these Hellions pop, it does make things a lot easier.
Ooh, he wants to keep them alive, though. One does go down before the Zealots actually take considerable damage. He does raise that supply depot there, but he's going to focus down the reactor. That's actually a big blow if it goes down. Repairable is going down, though, on it as well. And will he be able to kill it off? It's going to be so close, but there's just so many SCVs coming to repair.
Yeah, I don't think that was the best choice there for Mana, to be honest, going for that reactor. It's always going to get repaired by multiple SCVs if needed. I think he should have tried to get into the SCV line, do a bit of damage, because eventually it was going to be dealt with. There was going to be more Hellions popping out. The Marine was going to eventually kill these units. But one crucial thing that Mana did get from that, despite losing those units, he saw the build. He saw the starport there. He saw the reactor Hellions coming down. So hopefully he can start to prepare himself for this.
Oh, and speaking of preparing, he really needs to prepare for this, as the Hellions do dart in, killing off a sentry as well as a probe, but those Stalkers push them away. So less damage than I was actually expecting from that.
Couple of small blows here from Lucifron. Dealing a bit of damage already. I mean, Mana didn't really do anything with those initial units. He's now just lost a sentry as well. But we'll see what damage can be done from the Banshee as Cloak is on the way. But 6 gateways coming down from Mana now, realizing this is a Hellion Banshee play. And as long as the Banshee is shut down with the Observer, can Lucifron deal with a high amount of units? But Lucifron has spotted that pylon at the top right. He knows that something isn't right and immediately puts down a second bunker. And if he does damage with Banshees while defending at home, I don't know how this is going to work out.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if we even see more bunkers go down. I mean, it's just that precautionary measure they're required. And look at that, Lucifron pulling straight off the mineral line, going for that repairal. He knows that that is the big factor here. He knows he needs to hold on to that. And he's actually just going to push him with the Hellions as well.
And that's a solid defense at the moment. Only 2 Marines, but the way that the bunker's down and Hellions have got into the mineral line. Oh my god, a big blow into the probe line. 13 probes have been killed, and this game is not going the way that Mana wants it to, obviously. Down to 35, double bunkers, Banshees there to defend, but can Mana break through? This is a very good defense. Can it be broken?
Yeah, that is very, very strong indeed. He needs to raise those supply depots, and indeed he does. Those Zealots now not really getting too much surface around that bunker as they does get repaired as well. A lot of DPS here along with those Banshees.
There's no observer with that army either, so the Banshee's free to do what it chooses there. And imagine, because there's a bunker there and 4 Marines, if an observer goes over there to detect the Banshee, all Lucifron needs to do is scan. The 4 Marines will kill the observer and the defense can continue. But Mana's going to try it again.
He throws up the Guardian Shield here once again, trying to focus that bunker down as quickly. Nice force field, limiting all of those SCVs from getting in. He's trying to limit from the second one as well. He does so quite nicely. 2 SCVs repairing, but it goes down. He doesn't have many Zealots left to tank, though.
Another Banshee's about to pop, though. The micro has to be key from Lucifron. He's doing very well so far. The Banshee, it's going to fall down. Where's the next one coming in? Is Mana going to be able to break through? I'm not sure he is going to be able to. Once again, no observer, and the Banshee's going to do damage. But remember, it's only 2 helis, it's only 1 Banshee against 6 gateways. There's so much production for Mana.
Oh, and he takes down the last Banshee here. There's 2 more Hellions to try and deal with this. All of those SCVs as well trying to run away. He's killed off 8 already, trying to even up that worker count, and he has done considerably. Still more units in production. Lucifron just doesn't have the production capabilities to keep up.
There's 3 barracks not doing anything right now against 6 gateways for Mana. It looks like he's going to break this solid defense. More and more SCVs are going down. And now with the Zealots at the front, the Stalkers are going to start to get in there. There's an observer. That Cloak Banshee will not be as useful as intended. And Mana, despite all odds, has somehow managed to break through.
GG for game number 1. Wow, Mao's Mana, after a little bit of a shaky start there in that assault, brings it back, focusing down those bunkers. And the big thing in all of that engagement, those force fields.
Lucifron is feeling the heat here in Poland, guys. That is easy to tell. He's already lost versus Tefl. He's now trailing against Mana. Mistakes everywhere there. I mean, the barracks not being able to build and make units to defend.
Yeah.
Mana's looking good.
Mana is looking good, guys. So I think we're going to be handing it over to the analysis desk here in just a second, as we do have Gerard, QXE, and Todd standing by to fill you in on all those smaller details.
A bit of a sloppy game. Mistakes on both sides. Shaky start. But Mana, the hero, pulled it through. Want to give us a rundown?
Mana played this really well strategically. Like I really liked his response. Once he scouted that it was CC first, he knows that there's only a couple different transitions that he needs to really be aware of. The probe sees that it's CC first and there's early gas. And then at that point it's like, what is my opponent going to do with that early gas? We see Mana going for this early Zealot and Stalker pressure, which we do have in the replay right now. And this is really important. It's not as much about the damage that was dealt, but rather the information that he got. And that was what allowed Mana to make this really great strategic decision to add those additional gateways, get a couple observers to be safe, and let's go into the game here and we can just show exactly what Mana is able to see with those units. So the Zealots and the Stalkers poke up. If he can do some damage, that's great.
But now he's really like going in for information, basically. He's not expecting to kill his opponents. He wants to do some damage, yeah, but the information is key. He's going to be able to see the starport and the tech lab immediately. He knows there is Banshee. There's going to be some Banshee on the way here. This is almost never going to be a Raven.
And
Lucifron here wouldn't have the economy to have barracks as well with this. So from there, basically, Mana, he has to decide what he's going to do against this. And he throws down a Robo, and he's going to add even more gates later on to basically try to go for some kind of semi-all-in huge timing attack and try to kill his opponent.
Yep, and the other thing that's really great about what Mana does, because he has that information, there are the extra 3 gateways, so leads into the 6th gate. Because he has the information about where Lucifron's tech is centered, he knows it's a reactor factory and it's a tech lab starport. He knows exactly what units he needs to make out of those gateways. Makes a lot of Stalkers, observers to defend, couple sentries here and there. Guardian force field allows them to take down the bunkers, Zealots to tank, but it's mostly Stalker heavy composition, and that allows him to just run over that Hellion Banshee unit comp.
The thing is, he has to break the wall. Once he breaks the wall, the Stalkers, there's nothing that can stop them. There is no siege tanks, there is no more bunkers, there is no steam, no medivacs. So what can Terran do really? Like once he loses his wall, he has to move out and try to fight those Stalkers, but there was just too much, and Mana taking the win after some, you said sloppy play, but it's true they made some mistakes, but overall I say they adapted so well to what each other were doing. Like Lucifron really tried to outsmart Mana. In the end, Mana got the better end of it, but they really adapted a lot in this game. Like if Mana just played standard, this might have gone completely Lucifron's way, because he was going to go for a third base. Like we saw, he wanted to start a command center. So it was very smart by Mana here to read the situation as it was and to go for the offense.
I think even if Lucifron had just been able to deny a little bit more information from Mana, he wouldn't have been able to put together that very precise counter strategy. And then that Hellion Banshee is actually quite scary. It deals very well with a lot of different builds.
The first run by was key here.
Yep.
Well, the next map is Daybreak. What are we going to see different?
Daybreak is usually, again, a pretty macro-heavy map. Even though you know where your opponent spawns, the rush distance is pretty far. So usually you see fast expands from both sides.
All right, well, the players are in the game. We'll give it over to the casters.
Thanks, guys. It's always nice to hear from the professionals here to know exactly what they're thinking about these games. But we're going to be jumping into game 2 soon. Daybreak is a pretty good map for game number 2.
Very good map, actually. Mana definitely likes playing PvT on this map. It's a large map again, far away from each other, allows for him to play, as QXC said, a nice, slower macro game, and I'm sure that's what we're going to see.
Yep, too true. So as we get going into this game, we do have our lovely Polish crowd there, always hyped up and good to go, especially for their home crowd heroes, as we should be jumping on in just a second. So, spawning down to the south here as our blue Terran. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Lucifron. And currently one game up here, spawning as our red Protoss, aptly as he is of Mao Sports. Give it up for Mao's Mana.
Remember, both these players are currently sitting at 1 win and 1 loss within Group B. Currently sitting in position 2 and position 3 within the groups. Remember, 3 players do advance from this group out of 6. Number 1 in the group, of course, is Parting. Hasn't dropped a single map so far and is absolutely dominating. So this is a very important game for both players here. An important series to win. Of course, if Mana wins this, he goes up 2-1. And likewise does Lucifron. But the loser, more importantly, goes 1 win and 2 losses, and that's where things start to be or become quite difficult.
Yep. An important factor in that as well is that Mana has already got that Parting hurdle out of the way. He now doesn't have to incur that loss from him. He's like, that's already done and dusted. He can now focus on the rest of the group here against people like Siphon, Tefel, Bly, etc. I think he already played one of them. But the point is that now he's here. He's going for that Nexus after Gateway once again. And Lucifron, meanwhile, well, he's saving up for his command center.
That's a really good point if you think about it. Both players are equal scores, 1-1. But look who they've played. Mana's played Parting. Mana's played, a difficult opponent compared to Lucifron, who, unfortunately for Siphon, is the weakest link in the group. And that's where Lucifron was able to pick up an easy victory. So in terms of moving on from here, Lucifron definitely wants to be looking for this win because it's only going to get more difficult for him.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So now we have Lucifron heading on in, sees the gas, sees the cybernetic score. Pretty much standard things that you would end up seeing there. But for now, Mana has control of that watchtower, keeping a good eye on the front of his opponent's base. And this is going to dilute into the bog standard openers for these guys. It really depends on where the gas is going to be taken, when it's going to be taken, and there we go.
Yeah, double gases again here from Lucifron, but he does have a second barracks. So we'll see what that double gas is really going to entail. With the double gas coming down, we're definitely going to be seeing a factory most likely from this. Well, we'll see as a full scout now from Lucifron goes into the base of Mana, does see double gas as well.
Yeah.
Knows that Mana can have quite a few sentries out relatively fast. Knows that Mana can tech from here as well, but doesn't know precisely what's going on with Mana either. And as QXC said previously, and Todd, that it was all about information gathering in the previous game, and that's what it very well could lead to again here.
And I think that going into the second game as well, we're probably going to see Lucifron take great precautions against the potentials that Mana can throw at him. Like in game 1 with that 6-gate, we'll see Lucifron maybe put his initial few supply depots a little earlier at the front there to create that wall a little quicker. Just anything, any little incremental advantage he can gain from that is pivotal against a player that can throw out that kind of strategy.
And what we're seeing with Lucifron here is Technolab Band reacted down on both those barracks. Stim immediately started as well as Marauder production and very shortly Marine production.
Yep.
And Mana with a lot of gas banked up currently, 200 gas in the bank. Robo throwing down now inside his main base. We've seen the production tab, so quite a relatively fast tech here for Mana. And that usually means one thing, that he's going to go straight into his Colossus play. Not sure if it's going to be a 2-base Colossus push, but if I was going to put a bet on anything, it's more so going to be just Colossus upgrades into a 3rd base rather than dedicating to a strong push.
Yeah, and as we can see here from Lucifron's side of things, the one great thing about opening up this way as well is it leaves you far less vulnerable to some earlier gateway pressure, which is obviously not occurring here, but Lucifron doesn't know that right now, so he still has to take those precautions, getting those Marine and Marauders out pretty quickly. And Mana, you know, he sees everything going on at the front as well. He sees all the eventualities coming along, and
bit of
nice
a mistake there. Bit of a mistake from Mana. Nice pick up there by Lucifron. But with Lucifron getting the double gas so relatively fast in this game, he's able to go straight for a factory. He hasn't added on a 3rd command center or anything. He hasn't added on a 3rd barracks. And he's going to have a relatively fast medivac timing here. So we could see, because it's a lot faster, we could see him move out with 4 medivacs a lot faster than you would do usually. It's going to come a minute to 2 minutes earlier than usually. So we'll see what he's going to really use that for. Is he going to move out with Stim +1, 4 medivacs, and then try to do damage? Because with 4 medivacs, not only does it increase, you know, the strength of your army, you can also drop in the main base and have medivacs to heal your army attacking at the front too. So it opens up a lot more options, but the downside of it, naturally, you don't have as many units because you don't have the same barracks count as you would do normally.
Yeah, that's very, very true here. And look at this, Mana still also committing to, you know, those double forge plays, so he's really, really ramping up that upgrade tech. He's going to be able to power that out to the point where he's committing more to the longer game than anything, so we're expecting maybe a 3rd base coming from him, unless he was going for some weird 1-1 timing, but you know, with the Twilight Council going down, that gives us a good lead.
Yeah, I mean, now looking over in Mana's base, he didn't get down the Robo Bay as, you know, initially thought, because that's how Mana likes to play usually, but he threw his gas a lot earlier into upgrades, so he's going to have very good, very fast upgrades in this game. And now with the Twilight Council coming down, we are actually going to be seeing a Templar focus play. So he's going to be looking to get the Templar archives down relatively fast here, looking to get Storm down, Zealot charge down fast, and he's going to be playing a different style to how he usually does.
Yeah, the addition of that missile turret at the front as well for Lucifron was really nice, because he was just in the dark a little bit as to what his opponent was doing from that point on. Sees the Observer, he now knows that, you know, the Robo was down, he's happy with that. But it's paid for itself in essence, and Mana was being a little bit sloppy until he throws down the scan and sees the Templar archives.
And Mana sees this coming too, outside. I mean, he sees everything with the scan, and Mana with an Observer sees the army now, so both trading information gathered here. Is Mana going to be ready? His 1-1 is just about ready there. Zealot charge is not. That 3rd base is definitely in danger. We'll see if Mana's going to be in danger at the front. They're down to 27 supply at the moment. Has to cut this army up, and he does cut it up. And Immortal's coming in to help tank and make his army stronger. This 3rd base, where is Lucifron going though? Is he going to go down there? Is he going to go up to the natural? Mana sees everything with that Observer. There's 2 High Templar. They do not have Storm yet, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they do not have Storm, so they'll have to be for feedbacks. And here comes a massive drop.
Oh, he has to be so prepared. He's moving his Stalkers into position. He needs those feedbacks as well. They won't quite kill off the Medivacs, but forces him back. Nice move there by Mana. He has to continue the defense at his front.
Yeah, and here comes the drop from Lucifron. Good force field, good feedback. But does Mana have enough? Lucifron has so many Marines, and with this amount of Medivacs, everything is healing so fast, and he breaks through the initial force.
That's so much bio the Warpins, though, as well as the Archon pushing him back for now. Mana eventually holding that, as he does have Storm on the way, as well as 2-2. 1-1 kicked in during that fight.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about how early the upgrades were down for Mana. Think about how early his 2-2 is going to be done, how early his 3-3 is going to be done. In the production tab, we see the engineering bay. The armory is so far away for Lucifron, and that is the real strength of Mana in this game, is going to be his upgrades. So what that will develop into is upgrade-focused timing attacks. We could see him move out with 2-2 and Storm very shortly. He's thrown down more gateways. That seems to be what he could be going for. He doesn't necessarily need to, of course, can wait for 3-3 and hit a 3-3 timing, but that's how his game plan's going to move on from here.
Yeah, you're right, and because he has that upgrade advantage so thoroughly here, once those engagements come along, as long as he's trading efficiently on his side of things, he can keep Lucifron pinned back a little bit, maybe onto his side of the map, as long as Lucifron isn't going for crazy drops here, there, and everywhere. But we have that Mobius reactor on the way, so Lucifron preparing for that ghost capability.
And there's a warp prism being made, and I think this is going to be Mana's movement out. 3 additional gateways have been thrown down, 2-2 at 50% at the moment. He's going to go in and check how things are going. You know, what are we actually seeing in here? Do we see a second starport? Is the Ghost Academy down yet? How many barracks do we have? And then we're going to see Manus, I think, start to move out. And here is the movement out. The pylon is up. It is up there. The Zealots are opening. 2-2 is so close to finishing. It's going to be 2-2 upgrades for Mana against 1-1 for Lucifron.
Yeah.
Mana's army will outclass Lucifron so hard here. And then bringing in the Storm on top. This could be brutal.
And Lucifron just barely now eking out those 3 first ghosts. They're going to be pivotal in these engagements. We also have Lucifron throwing down a supply depot wall at his 3rd. This is really important to try and deal with those kinds of big zealot pressures here, but it's not enough. He doesn't get it completed in time, as well as his entire army out of position, trying to deal with this warp prism. It kills it off, but at the same time his 3rd is going to be ravaged.
Yeah, we'll see if Lucifron can mount the defense. He's got a nice position so far, but where are the Storms? The High Templar at the back looking to deal some damage. The Ghosts come in there trying to hold this on, and right now Lucifron does have a bigger army, but are these upgrades going to real show their potential?
Oh, the High Templars zoning out the entire Bioforce, whilst the Zealots have their way with the 3rd. A few get caught off. 1 Ghost does fall into the spray though. Will he be able to get any EMPs off? Storm goes down, whiffs a little bit. EMP goes down, does not whiff. And he, what a storm!
Big storm there, and another good storm too. The command center is gone. 2-2 is almost ready here for Lucifron, but not quite. Mana dicing his opponent up relatively well. He has 1 more storm left with that army. Morphs those 2 empty ones to an Archon, and we'll see if Lucifron can continue to hold on.
3-3 now on the way behind this as well, but Mana is not relenting whatsoever. He's constantly on the pressure here, as he does pull back just a little bit, constantly pushing his opponent back. Robobait is on the way as well. Those Zealots tanking so much damage. 2-2 still not finished here. Mana taking a very, very nice lead in this engagement. There's not much bio left. He pushes him back, and he's continuing to pressure the 3rd.
And remember, it's 3 bases versus 2. GG, Mana takes the 2-0. Very nice play from Mouse Sports Mana there.
Very, very nice indeed. He takes the win over a strong opponent indeed. Ladies and gentlemen of Poland, give it up for Mana.
And as mentioned earlier on, that puts Mana with 2 wins and 1 loss within Group B. Lucifron falls down 1 win and 2 losses now.
And we'll hand it over to the analysis desk, guys, where we'll look at game number 2 to see how Mana took on Lucifron.
Another decisive win. Another 2-0 today. Why is Mana so good?
Mana's just, he's really strong strategically. He's got the mechanics to back it up, but he's making really good decisions. You really understand what's going on, what corners he can cut. He goes for this, they both go kind of early expand, and then Mana transitions into this double forge, fast 3rd, fast Templar, gives him a really strong 2-2 timing push. We saw that push at Lucifron's 3rd was what really cinched the game, but the setup for it is what makes Mana so good.
We saw Mana take a very quick 3rd in this game at around 9 minutes. And basically, Lucifron started his 3rd command center at 10 minutes. 1 minute can matter a lot. Especially, Mana is very good at making probes continuously. So as soon as his 3rd Nexus finishes, he just transfers a couple probes there. And then he has such a good economy that he can immediately decide to go for a timing later on. Like when he has 150 or something like that. And that's what he did in this game. He just went for the 2-2 upgrades. He had a very weak point in his strategy, which was when Lucifron moved in front of the base of Mana, and he could drop with 4 medivacs full of units. The problem is that he didn't snipe to kill the observers. Yep. So Mana was always in position to be able to snipe those units if were they to be dropped anywhere. So he was able to defend that, and after that, Mana was just too far ahead. He had Storm, and Lucifron just got Ghosts too late. I was actually paying attention to what Lucifron was doing at the time, and he was just microing his units. And after he lost a whole bunch of them, he went home and he started the 2nd eBay and the Armory, as well as the Ghost Academy. Like, he threw down all of those buildings. So this means his macro kind of slipped here for a moment, and that's never good when it happens. So we can take a look at the replay here. And we see Mana, he gets in a very good position here. He already has a couple Templars. All of them have Storm already. And we have 2 Ghosts only out on the field, so that's only 2 EMPs, and there's just too many Templars. If Mana spreads them out, here he can Storm very comfortably or get a couple nice feedbacks on the Ghost. So now he went forward, and see, he dodged the EMP here barely. So that's 1 EMP wasted. Lucifron already had one preemptive Storm here, another Storm on those Ghosts. No snipe going off on this Templar, and basically Mana is slowing down Lucifron so much in this attack. No mining on the 3rd base. The income, you see 2,000 to 1,400. He's even gonna get his Command Center. He gets some great Storms here on Lucifron's army. Lucifron tries to go for the fight behind this, but I mean, when you have this many Templars, Mana just playing so well. And behind this, you see he even threw down Robotics Bay here in the back of his base, and he started 338 right after that. So Mana just took an advantage, he exploited it, and it paid off in here.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that was really key there was just the way Mana moved Lucifron's army out of position. Like you mentioned, Mana's build definitely has a weak point. It has a point where you really don't have a lot of units, and if you get caught out of position, you can take a ton of damage. You can lose your 3rd, you can lose probes, but because of Mana's good observer placement, that never happened. And then when Mana was on the aggressive, he had 2/2, he had Zealot Archon, he had High Templar. He did the Warp Prism in the main, which Lucifron defended, but in order to defend it, Lucifron got distracted, his army was out of position, and then Mana took full advantage of that.
Now earlier we talked about the mindset of being a hero, playing in your hometown, having that added pressure. What about the other side of the coin? What's Lucifron feel like when he comes here? And every game against these Polish players today, there's so much noise for his opponent. And he said, in the pregame interview that it didn't have much effect on him, that it didn't make him nervous. But is that the case, or do you think that he's feeling the nerves?
I feel like it always affects you to some extent. Even like if you don't realize it, it will always affect you. If you hear a lot of people cheering for the opponent, but the thing is, they cheer for Mana because he's from Poland. And that's cool, but I'm sure that if Lucifron won as well or did some good moves, they would cheer as well. Yeah. So I guess it affects you, but it's not just bad. It can also be good. Like if Lucifron won, I'm sure they would make a lot of noise for him too. But
they're very polite.
Yes.
In those games, I didn't really feel like the mistakes Lucifron made. They didn't feel like nervous mistakes. It wasn't like, oh my God, I just stimmed my whole army and everything died, and then I didn't micro and stuff like that. Like he was a little late on the eBay and the armory and the ghosts, but besides that, it was more like Mana in the first game he knew what to do. He knew the timing to exploit, and Lucifron didn't deal with it well. And in the second game, he knew the timing he was weak. He knew how to stay safe and macro out of it and get to the timing where he was strong. And then when he was strong, he knew how to exploit that as well. He knew how to push the advantage, and Lucifron just didn't react as well as he needed to.
All right. Just to give you a quick update about what's happening in the other games that aren't on this stream. Moonglade 2-0 over Dream, Australia. Grubby is still locked in an epic engagement with Snoot. They've actually had to regame the second game. Grubby's up 1-0. The second game crashed, and they had to have a regame, and the third game crashed. And they're now in their second regame and still fighting.
That's a really frustrating situation.
That's a very frustrating experience. Yeah. And I know Grubby, and I know that he's a very focused player. Yeah. And I can imagine that that's got to be really disturbing when that happens.
He has a lot of experience with this kind of
TLO
situation.
TLO is up 2-0 against Tarson. Sorry.
He won.
Well,
he won
being up 2-0, he wins.
Yes.
And Bly defeated Siphon 2-1. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back with more epic StarCraft 2 action. Don't go anywhere.